Dog won't stop barking at Suburban Mailbox. Police arrive, and what they find inside shocks everyone. The stench of cocaine filled Max's nostrils as he circled the innocuous-looking suitcase. Sarah Collins watched her partner's tail stiffen, a telltale sign she'd learned to read years ago. The Belgian Malinois' dark eyes locked with hers for a fraction of a second before he sat down next to the luggage, his signal for a positive hit. "Ma'am, would you step aside, please?" Sarah's voice carried the practiced calm of a veteran K-9 officer. The well-dressed woman clutching the suitcase's handle glanced at the departure gates of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, calculating her chances. "Don't!" Sarah warned, recognizing the look. Her hand moved casually to her hip. The woman's shoulders slumped. Another trafficker caught, another morning's work done. As Atlanta PD's narcotics unit took over, Sarah scratched behind Max's ears. "Good boy," she whispered, and his tail wagged once, professional demeanor briefly breaking. That should have been the highlight of their shift. A routine drug bust, paperwork, then home. But Max had other plans. They were patrolling the suburbs an hour later, Sarah's least favorite assignment. Give her the airport's bustling terminals or downtown's shadowy alleys any day over these cookie-cutter streets with their manicured lawns and identical mailboxes. Max lay in the back of the patrol car, seemingly half asleep, but always alert. The radio crackled with mundane updates. A noise complaint 3 blocks over, a fender bender by the elementary school. Sarah's mind wandered to the morning's arrest, mentally composing her report. That's when Max's head snapped up. His sudden growl pulled Sarah from her thoughts. She'd never heard that sound from him before, not in 6 years of partnership. Not during drug busts, not during that hostage situation last summer, not even when they'd cornered an armed suspect in that warehouse by the river. "Max?" She slowed the car, scanning the street. Nothing seemed out of place. Just another row of suburban homes with their perfect front yards and standard-issue mailboxes. The growl deepened into a bark that raised the hair on her arms. Max was now fully alert, ears forward, eyes fixed on something ahead. Sarah pulled over, trying to follow his line of sight. There, a mailbox, completely ordinary, exactly like its neighbors, except, "What is it, boy?" She opened the back door, and Max was out before she could clip on his lead. He made a beeline for the mailbox, circling it with the same intensity he'd shown at the airport. But this was different. His behavior was more urgent, almost agitated. Sarah approached carefully, years of training kicking in. The mailbox looked normal at first glance. Dark blue, standard size, number 1542 painted in white. But as she got closer, she noticed subtle irregularities. The mounting pole had fresh scratch marks near its base. The box itself sat slightly askew, as if recently disturbed. Max wouldn't stop barking, completely out of character for him during an investigation. He was trained to indicate silently, to avoid alerting suspects. Something about this had him breaking years of conditioning. Okay, I hear you." Sarah ran her hand along the mailbox surface. The metal felt wrong somehow, warmer than it should be in the morning shade. She pulled out her flashlight, crouching to examine the base more closely. That's when she felt it, eyes on her, a prickling sensation at the back of her neck. She straightened slowly, casually scanning the street. There, a curtain moving in a second-floor window of the house across the street. Someone watching. Max's barking cut off abruptly. In the sudden silence, Sarah heard a faint mechanical whir from inside the mailbox. Her heart jumped as she registered the sound's significance. "Max, back!" she commanded, pulling him away just as a small puff of vapor escaped from the mailbox's seam. The chemical smell hit her an instant later, subtle but distinctive. She'd encountered it before, during a raid on a document forgery operation. Acid designed to destroy evidence. "Dispatch, this is K-9 Unit 217, she called into her radio. "Requesting backup at 1542 Oak Grove Lane. Possible." She paused, looking at Max's alert stance. What exactly did they have here? Possible criminal activity in progress. Suspicious package. As she waited for acknowledgement, Sarah noticed something else. A business card had blown from beneath the mailbox when Max was circling it. She picked it up carefully with a gloved hand. The logo was for a construction company she recognized from recent city council meetings, one that had won several major contracts. Max whined softly, pressing against her leg. She knew that signal too. Danger. The radio squawked. Unit 217. Captain Thompson responding personally. Hold your position. Do not, repeat, do not open that mailbox. Sarah frowned. A captain responding to a suspicious mailbox. She looked at the business card again, then at Max's unwavering stance. Her partner had never been wrong, not once in 6 years, and he'd never broken protocol like this before. Roger that, dispatch, holding position. But something felt off. The captain's tone, the business card, the watching eyes that had now disappeared from the window, and Max, her steadfast partner, still bristling with tension. Sarah had learned early in her career to trust her dog's instincts. Now those instincts were screaming that this was more than a simple, suspicious package. Whatever was in that mailbox, someone wanted it destroyed, and someone very high up was very interested in it. She took out her phone and snapped several pictures of the mailbox and the business card. If her years on the force had taught her anything, it was to document everything, especially when things didn't add up. Max's ears twitched at the sound of approaching sirens. Sarah patted his head, mind racing. What have you gotten us into this time, partner? The answer would change both their lives forever. Captain Thompson's cruiser pulled up with no lights or sirens, which was Sarah's first red flag. The second was that he came alone. In 12 years on the force, she'd never seen a suspicious package call without a bomb squad in tow. Officer Collins. Thompson's voice carried across the street, casual but clipped. Care to explain why you're disturbing our nice suburban taxpayers this morning? Max's hackles rose slightly, another warning sign. Her partner had always liked Thompson before, often earning treats from the captain's desk drawer. Today was different. The dog's muscles were coiled tight beneath her hand. Sir, my K9 alerted to this mailbox, Sarah explained, keeping her voice professional. We observed signs of tampering, and there was a chemical reaction when... A chemical reaction? Thompson cut her off, reaching for the mailbox. His sleeve pulled back, revealing an expensive watch. From a mailbox? Collins, you've been working too hard. Take the rest of the day. Max's growl stopped Thompson's hand mid-reach. The captain jerked back, his practiced smile slipping. Control your dog, officer. Max, heel. Sarah kept her voice steady despite her racing thoughts. In 6 years together, Max had never growled at a fellow officer. His training was impeccable. Sir, with respect, we should wait for the bomb squad to... That won't be necessary. Thompson was already pulling out his phone. I'll handle this personally. You're dismissed. Sarah hesitated. Protocol dictated she stay until properly relieved. Sir, my dog indicated... That's an order, Collins. Thompson's tone left no room for argument. His voice dropped to a harsh whisper. Clear the scene. Now. Back in her cruiser, Sarah examined the business card she'd found near the mailbox. Sierra Construction's logo was embossed in gold, the paper too expensive for a local contractor. She photographed it before running the company through her database. The search returned little, just a business license and a downtown address. The mailbox itself had no registration or service history. It technically didn't exist. At the precinct, the system crashed when she tried to file her report. An hour later, when everything came back online, all records of their Oak Grove Lane call had vanished. The dispatcher who'd taken it was out sick. Food poisoning, they claimed. Computer glitch, the IT guy shrugged, not meeting her eyes. Happens sometimes. Sarah spent the afternoon on patrol, her mind churning. The chemical smell from the mailbox nagged at her memory, something from an old case, maybe that document forgery bust last year. Max stayed unusually alert beside her, his ears pricking at every passing car. Near shift's end, she visited the city records office. Pete, the clerk, was an old friend from her rookie days. He'd always been a stickler for procedure, unpopular but trustworthy. "Need a favor," Sarah said, sliding him Sierra's card. "What can you tell me about them?" Pete's smile vanished. His eyes darted to the security cameras. "Don't ask about them, Sarah. Seriously. Are that bad?" He leaned close, whispering, "They've won every major city contract for 3 years, always underbidding competitors by exactly 12%, always finishing under budget, always getting approved without committee review. And anyone who looks too closely—" He made a vanishing gesture. "Pete!" A sharp voice cut through. A supervisor Sarah didn't recognize stood in the doorway. "Break ended 10 minutes ago. Dev." At home that evening, Sarah spread her notes across the kitchen table while Max watched from his bed. Sierra Construction, the unregistered mailbox, Thompson's behavior, the vanishing records. All pieces of a puzzle she couldn't solve, but one that made her instincts scream. Her doorbell rang. Max was up instantly, his growl deeper than she'd ever heard, a sound he'd made only twice before, both times before violence erupted. This wasn't his usual alert to visitors. This was a warning. Sarah drew her off-duty weapon and approached the door. Through the peephole, she saw only a manila envelope. A black SUV with tinted windows turned the corner, its license plate obscured. The envelope held 2 items, a photograph and a note. The photo showed her and Max at the mailbox that morning, taken from the second-story window she'd noticed. The image was crisp enough to read her badge number. The note was brief. "Drop it. K9s can be retired early or put down." Her hands shook. Not from fear, but from rage. They hadn't threatened her, they'd threatened Max. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check the news tomorrow. Another K9 unit found something interesting in Riverside. Don't let your dog be next." The number traced back to a burner phone. Max padded over, resting his head on her lap. Sarah scratched behind his ears, feeling the familiar pattern of small scars from their first year together. Riverside, another suburban development similar to Oak Grove, another mailbox. The threat meant she was onto something big, something that scared powerful people. Her laptop chimed. An email from Pete's personal account. "Found deleted files on Sierra's real billing. Made copies. Be careful. This goes higher than you think. Watch your back." Sarah studied the threat letter one more time, then looked at her partner. Max met her gaze, steadily, unwavering. 6 years of partnership, of having each other's backs, of reading each other's smallest signals, of absolute trust. "They really don't know us at all, do they?" She crumpled the threat and stood, checking her weapon. "Come on, boy, we've got a midnight patrol to run." Max's tail wagged once as he followed her to the door. They had a new trail to follow, one leading straight into Atlanta's corrupt heart. But Sarah had learned long ago, with Max by her side, darkness held no terror, only answers waiting to be found. Sarah woke with a start, heart pounding, the dream again. 5 years hadn't dulled the memory of that night, the warehouse, the gunfire, the loss of her first partner. She reached for her phone, 3:47 a.m. Max's head lifted from his bed in the corner. "Just the dream, boy," she whispered. But it wasn't just the dream. Something about yesterday's mailbox had triggered these memories. The same chemical smell, that same sick feeling. She retrieved a worn case file from her home office. The label read, "Operation Silverback 2020. Her first major case with the K9 unit. Her last case with Duke." The German Shepherd's official photo was still clipped to the front page. Dark eyes serious, bearing proud. K9 Officer Duke. Badge, number K547. End of watch. September 15th, 2020. Max padded over, pressing against her leg as she sat at the kitchen table. He always knew when she needed comfort. 5 years ago, she'd sworn never to work with another dog. Losing Duke had nearly destroyed her. Then this stubborn Belgian Malinois had come along and changed everything. The file's contents spread across the table. Surveillance photos, witness statements, forensic reports. Duke had discovered a document forgery operation in a warehouse near the airport. High-end paper stock, industrial printers, that same chemical smell from yesterday's mailbox. They'd thought they'd found a simple counterfeiting ring. But Duke kept searching, insisting something else was hidden deeper in the warehouse. Sarah had trusted him, just like she now trusted Max. The investigation led them to corrupt customs officials, forged shipping manifests, millions in missing cargo. Each document revealed another layer of corruption. The night of the raid, someone had been waiting. They'd cleared 3 sections when Duke suddenly changed direction, pulling her toward a hidden office. The first shot missed. The second didn't. Duke took the bullet meant for her. She still remembered his final whimper, the warmth of his blood on her hands, the way his eyes never left hers until the end. They never caught the shooter. The investigation was shut down, classified as resolved despite her protests. Key evidence vanished. Witnesses changed their stories or disappeared. Just like yesterday's dispatch records had vanished, just like Thompson's strange behavior at the mailbox. Sarah pulled up Sierra Construction's website. Their portfolio included several airport projects, expansion of cargo facilities, renovation of customs areas, new security infrastructure. The dates aligned perfectly with Operation Silverback. The same areas where Duke had found suspicious activity were all renovated by Sierra within months of his death. Max whined softly, bumping her hand. When she first met him at the training center, she'd been determined to reject him. Too independent, they said, too stubborn, wouldn't follow standard protocols. But she'd seen something else in those dark eyes, intelligence, loyalty, and a fierce determination that matched her own. Their first training session had been a disaster by conventional standards. Max ignored basic commands, choosing instead to investigate a storage shed that wasn't part of the exercise. Sarah had been furious until they found missing evidence from a drug case hidden there. Someone had been using the training facility to temporarily store contraband. That discovery led to 3 arrests within the department. Some wanted Max removed from the program, called him unreliable. Sarah fought for him. She recognized what others didn't. Max wasn't disobedient, he was incorruptible. He couldn't be trained to ignore his instincts, to look the other way. Just like Duke, you never could follow bad orders, could you? She scratched his favorite spot behind his ears. Like his refusal to leave that mailbox yesterday. Like Duke's insistence on searching deeper in the warehouse. Her phone buzzed, another text from the unknown number. Ask yourself why they really assigned you to Suburban Patrol. Getting warm, Officer Collins. The Suburban routes. She'd questioned the reassignment 2 months ago when they pulled her from airport duty. Thompson had called it a temporary rotation to give younger officers experience. But they'd also reassigned 3 other experienced K-9 handlers, all officers who'd made significant busts in the past year. She opened her laptop, pulling up a map of Atlanta, Oak Grove Lane, Riverside. Her hands shook slightly as she marked every location where she and the other K-9 units had been assigned patrols. A pattern emerged, all near major construction sites, all Sierra construction projects, all connected to city contracts that Pete had warned her about. The pieces aligned. The forged documents from 5 years ago, the missing cargo, Sierra's impossible bids, the mailboxes that didn't exist, a network of corruption hiding in plain sight. The sun was rising when her phone buzzed again. Pete, found something in the old records. Remember Operation Silverback? Same shell company owned the warehouse, different name, same signatures. Meeting in person only. Usual place, 1 hour. Max was already at the door, service vest in his mouth. Sarah felt the familiar mix of pride and fear. Pride in his unwavering courage, his commitment to what was right. Fear of losing another partner to the same people who'd killed Duke, but she'd learned her lesson. Fear couldn't stop you from doing what was right. It could only make you more careful, more prepared. She checked her weapon, then Max's vest, testing each strap. The vest was newer than regulation required, rated against higher calibers. She'd spent her own money on it, just as she'd spent hours training Max for scenarios beyond standard requirements. She wouldn't lose another partner. Ready to finish what Duke started? Max's tail wagged once, decisive. He'd never met Duke, but somehow he understood. Maybe it was in the way she'd trained him, or in the bond they'd formed through countless hours together. Or maybe he just knew. the way good dogs always seem to know what matters most. Sarah took one last look at Duke's photo before locking the file away. She'd lost one partner to this conspiracy. She wouldn't lose another. This time, she had Max. This time, she knew what they were facing. This time, she'd make sure the truth couldn't be forged, buried, or forgotten. Justice wouldn't be just another document to disappear into the night. The diner was nearly empty at this hour, just a few regulars nursing coffee cups at the counter. Sarah chose a booth with a clear view of both exits, Max settling at her feet. Pete was 10 minutes late, unusual for him. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Meeting your records clerk friend? Bad idea. Ask him about the new security cameras in his office. Ask him who's really watching. Sarah's hand tightened on her coffee cup. They were monitoring Pete, which meant they'd been onto him even before she asked about Sierra Construction. She started to stand, but it was too late. Pete burst through the door, face flushed, tie askew. "Sarah, we have to..." He stopped short at the sight of two men entering behind him. Captain Thompson and someone Sarah didn't recognize. Expensive suit, manicured hands, cold eyes. "Officer Collins." Thompson's voice was carefully neutral. "I believe you have something that belongs to the department. The Operation Silverback file?" The suit smiled thinly. "James Marshall, Sierra Construction's legal department. We've had some concerns about harassment of our facilities." Max's growl was barely audible, but Sarah felt it through the floor. She kept her voice steady. "Sir, I'm off duty. Any official business should go through. We're suspending you pending investigation." Thompson cut in. "Unauthorized access to classified files, interfering with construction sites, misuse of K9 resources. Turn in your badge and weapon. The K9 will be reassigned." Sarah's world tilted. They couldn't take Max. Not like this. Not when they were so close. "Officer Ryan will escort you home to collect the file." Thompson gestured to a uniformed officer entering the diner. Sarah recognized him. One of the three arrested after Max discovered the evidence cache during training, recently reinstated. Pete stepped forward. "Captain, this is irregular. The proper procedure has been followed," Marshall interrupted smoothly. "We have the paperwork right here. Unless you'd like us to review your own recent activities, Mr. Davidson." The threat was clear. Pete's face went pale. Sarah's mind raced. The file was safely locked away, but her laptop at home had copies of everything. The photos, the maps showing the pattern of K9 reassignments, the connections to Operation Silverback. And somewhere in her email was Pete's evidence about Sierra's contracts. She had maybe an hour before they searched her house, less if they were already watching it. "I understand." Sarah stood slowly, keeping her movements calm. "Let me just take Max outside first. He gets anxious in small spaces with crowds." Thompson frowned, but Sarah was already moving, guiding Max toward the door. "5 minutes, Collins. Officer Ryan will accompany you." Outside, the morning air was thick with humidity. Ryan followed a few steps behind as Sarah led Max toward a patch of grass near her car. "Bathroom break," she said apologetically. "Unless you want him marking your back seat." Ryan grimaced and kept his distance. Sarah knelt beside Max, pretending to adjust his vest. "Find Riverside," she whispered. "Their code for separating in dangerous situations." Max's ears twitched, the only sign he'd heard. She straightened up, hands still on Max's harness. Ryan was checking his phone. The diner's door opened as Thompson and Marshall stepped out. Perfect timing. "Max, free!" Sarah unclipped his harness in one smooth motion. Max bolted, not toward her car, but down a narrow alley between buildings. Ryan swore, reaching for his radio. "Stop that dog!" Thompson shouted, but Max was already gone, a dark blur vanishing into the maze of Atlanta's back streets. Sarah felt a fierce pride. They'd practiced this dozens of times. Max would go to ground, then make his way to their emergency rendezvous point near the Riverside development. Marshall's cold voice cut through the chaos. "Arrest her." Sarah didn't resist as Ryan cuffed her. Her laptop was in her go bag in the car, encrypted. Her phone was locked. They'd find nothing at her house except Duke's file, a dead end. She had 58 minutes until her emergency email would automatically send copies of everything to 3 different news outlets. Thompson grabbed her arm. "Where will the dog go? Tell me." Sarah smiled. "You know what your mistake was, threatening him. If you'd threatened me, I might have played along. But Max, he's not just a dog, and he's not department property. He's my partner. Your career is over," Marshall said softly. "You'll never work in law enforcement again. Maybe." Sarah watched as more patrol cars arrived, lights flashing. "But you made another mistake too. You assumed Duke's death was the end of the investigation. It wasn't. It was just the beginning. And now every K9 unit you relocated is going to know why they were really reassigned." Her phone buzzed one last time in her pocket. The unknown number. "Well played, Officer Collins. Package received. Witness protection ready when you need it. Just hold on for an hour." Sarah relaxed slightly as they put her in the back of a patrol car. Max was safe. The evidence was secure. And somewhere in the city, an incorruptible Belgian Malinois was following a trail that would bring down an empire built on forged papers and buried secrets. She just had to survive the next hour. Max would do the rest. Through the car's window, she watched Thompson and Marshall in heated conversation. Marshall's carefully cultivated calm was cracking. Good. Let them worry. Let them wonder what evidence was already beyond their reach. The car pulled away from the diner. In the side mirror, Sarah caught a glimpse of Pete slipping away through the growing crowd of onlookers. Another piece in place. 55 minutes to go. The game wasn't over. It was just starting. The holding cell was freezing, but Sarah kept perfectly still, counting minutes. Through the small window, she watched officers rushing past. The station's usual calm had given way to barely controlled chaos. Her emergency email must have gone through. "Collins." Thompson appeared at the cell door, his composure cracking. "Where's the dog? Where's the evidence?" "Probably halfway to the FBI by now." She met his gaze steadily. "You know what else is interesting? All those reassigned K9 units you scattered around the suburbs. They've been comparing notes all morning. Seems they all found interesting things near Sierra construction sites." Thompson's face darkened. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. The reach these people have, like the reach they had 5 years ago." Sarah stood. "When they killed my partner and buried the evidence? Or did you think I wouldn't figure that out too?" A new voice cut through their conversation. "Captain Thompson." A word. Marshall stood in the hallway, his expensive suit wrinkled now, his phone pressed to his ear. "Now." Sarah smiled as Thompson hurried away. The timeline was playing out exactly as she'd planned. 50 minutes since her arrest, which meant a distant alarm blared. The fire evacuation system, right on schedule. Officers began moving prisoners toward the emergency exits. In the confusion, Sarah spotted Pete slipping through a side door. He'd used his old evidence room credentials, the ones they'd forgotten to deactivate. Her cuffs clicked open. 2 minutes, Pete whispered, passing her a backup weapon and radio. "Your friend in IA has the building sealed. Marshall and Thompson are in the captain's office. Max is in position." Sarah checked the radio frequency. "You sure about this? Those bastards killed Duke." Pete's voice was hard. "Make it count." Sarah moved through the chaos like a ghost, Pete's security badge giving her access to the back stairs. The radio crackled. "Target confirmed in office. Evidence recovered from vehicle. FBI ETA 8 minutes." She reached the upper floor just as Marshall burst out of Thompson's office, phone in hand. "Get me the mayor. This has to be contained." He froze at the sight of her. "The mayor's a bit busy," Sarah said calmly. "Something about federal agents at City Hall. Apparently someone sent them 5 years' worth of evidence about Sierra Construction's contracting fraud." Thompson appeared behind Marshall, weapon drawn. "Collins, you're making a mistake. Like the mistake of storing evidence in a training facility, or using suburban mailboxes as dead drops, or maybe," she smiled coldly, "like the mistake of assuming a dying K9 officer couldn't trigger his vest camera." That hit home. Marshall's composure shattered. That footage was destroyed. Duke was wearing a prototype. Direct upload to a secure server. I couldn't access it until recently, but guess what the footage shows? The same face that just confessed to having it destroyed. Marshall lunged for the stairs. Thompson's gun swung between them, uncertainty clear in his stance. From below came the sound of approaching sirens. A familiar bark echoed through the stairwell. Max appeared at the bottom of the stairs, blocking Marshall's escape route. Behind him stood Officer Chen from Internal Affairs, weapon aimed steady. 5 years, Sarah said quietly. 5 years of building evidence, of placing K9 units near your properties, of watching your operation. Did you really think Duke's death would be the end? Thompson's gun lowered slowly. Sarah, I never wanted. I didn't know they'd kill him, but you helped cover it up. She kept her weapon trained on Marshall. You helped them hide the truth. You betrayed everything that badge stands for. Marshall made one last attempt, reaching inside his jacket. Max's growl stopped him cold. He's wearing a wire, Chen called up. Everything's recorded. FBI has a live stream. The building filled with the sound of federal agents announcing their presence. Marshall sank to his knees, his empire crumbling around him. Thompson set his gun down, shoulders slumped in defeat. Sarah descended the stairs to where Max waited. His tail wagged once as she reached him, their signal for a job well done. She knelt beside him, checking his vest more out of habit than necessity. Good boy, she whispered. Duke would be proud. Chen approached with the evidence bag. Inside, Sarah could see documents from Marshall's car. The original contracts, the real financial records, everything they needed to break the case wide open. You had this planned for months, Chen said admiringly, using their own paranoia against them, making them think the K9 reassignments were their idea. Sarah scratched Max's ears. They never understood what they were dealing with. Dogs can't be corrupted, can't be bought, and they never, ever forget their fallen partners. Through the windows, she watched as FBI agents led a handcuffed Marshall to a waiting vehicle. More arrests would follow. Corrupt officials, contractors, everyone who had helped bury the truth about Duke's death. Ready to go back to airport duty, partner? She asked Max. His tail wagged again. They both knew there would be other cases, other challenges. But for now, it was enough that justice had finally been served. Duke could rest easy. And somewhere in the city, a network of corrupt power brokers was learning a hard lesson. Never underestimate a K9 officer's loyalty to their partner, to the truth, and to the memory of those who fell protecting it. The long nightmare was over. But Max's watchful gaze told her what she already knew. Their real work was just beginning. Sarah sat in the back row of the courtroom, watching as Marshall and Thompson were led in wearing handcuffs. The businessman's expensive suit couldn't hide his exhaustion, while the former captain seemed smaller without his uniform. Max lay quietly beside her chair, but his eyes never left the two men. The evidence against them was overwhelming. Duke's recovered camera footage had finally revealed the shooter's identity, one of Marshall's private security contractors. The forged documents from the Suburban mailboxes had exposed a complex money laundering operation. Bank records showed millions in kickbacks filtered through Sierra Construction's contracts. Each K9 unit they'd tried to sideline had instead helped expose another piece of the corruption. "All rise," the bailiff called. Sarah stood, her restored badge catching the morning light. The investigation had reached all the way to the mayor's office, revealing a network of corruption that had infected Atlanta for years. 38 arrests so far, with more coming as new evidence surfaced. Pete sat 2 rows ahead, looking sharp in his new role as head of records management. His meticulous documentation had been crucial in building their case. The security cameras in his office now reported to the FBI instead of Sierra's people. His careful attention to detail had helped construct an ironclad case against everyone involved. Sarah's phone vibrated. A message from Chen in Internal Affairs. Mayor's aide talking. Says Duke found evidence of international smuggling. Want first crack at the airport investigation. K9 units being reassigned back to critical areas. Max's ears twitched at her sharp intake of breath. He'd always been able to read her moods, sensing when something important was happening. Sarah glanced down at her partner, remembering the mailbox that had started it all. His instincts had been perfect that day, just like Duke's had been 5 years ago. The judge began reading the charges: money laundering, conspiracy, evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, murder of a police service animal. Sarah felt Max press against her leg at the mention of Duke's death. Some wounds never fully healed, but they made you stronger, more determined to see justice done. As Marshall was led away after entering his guilty plea, he caught Sarah's eye. His polished corporate facade had crumbled, replaced by something like fear. He'd finally learned what she'd known all along. You could threaten an officer, bribe a politician, even kill a dog, but you couldn't kill the truth. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowded the steps. Sarah avoided them, leading Max toward their patrol car. They had a shift starting at the airport, their first since reinstatement. Real police work, not the suburban patrols meant to keep them away from sensitive areas. "Officer Collins!" A woman approached, holding a small boy's hand. "You probably don't remember me. My husband was a customs agent. He reported cargo irregularities 5 years ago, right before his sudden transfer to Alaska." Sarah nodded. "We found his original reports in Marshall's files. The FBI wants to speak with him. He was right all along." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "He always said something wasn't right, but we were scared. When we saw the news about Sierra Construction," she looked down at Max. "May I?" Sarah nodded. The woman knelt, letting her son gently pat Max's head. "Thank you," she whispered, "for finishing what they tried to stop." More families would come forward in the weeks ahead. More evidence would surface. The corruption had run deep, but its roots were finally being torn out, exposed to the light of day. Each new revelation brought more clarity about how the system had been manipulated and how it could be fixed. Back in the car, Sarah hung Duke's restored badge on the rearview mirror. The department had presented it that morning, a symbol of cleared names and honored memories. In the reflection, she could see Max in the back seat, alert and ready as always. Her radio crackled with a report of a suspicious package at the international terminal. Real work, real purpose. She and Max had helped expose the corruption, but their primary mission remained unchanged: protect and serve, keeping faith with those who'd gone before. She started the engine as Max settled into his usual position. The corruption had been exposed, but there would always be new threats, new challenges to face. They'd be ready. The car pulled away from the courthouse, leaving behind the remnants of a conspiracy that had never understood one crucial truth. A K-9 officer's loyalty couldn't be bought or corrupted. It could only be earned through trust, respect, and unwavering dedication to what was right. Duke's badge caught the sunlight, swinging gently as they drove. The past was finally at rest. The future, with all its challenges and possibilities, lay ahead. Sarah knew, with the certainty that came from absolute trust in her partner, that she and Max would be ready for whatever came next. She reached back, feeling Max's cold nose touch her hand. Some might say it was just a dog's response, but Sarah knew better. It was a reminder of everything they'd fought for, everything they'd won, and everything they still had to protect. Through the windshield, Atlanta's skyline looked different somehow, cleaner, as if the city itself had awakened from a long fever. The truth had that effect. It could cleanse even the deepest corruption if you were brave enough to seek it out and strong enough to face it. "Ready for work, partner?" Max's tail wagged once, decisive. They shared a bond forged through adversity and strengthened by unwavering trust. They'd faced down corruption that had seemed untouchable and had proven that no one was above the law. Justice had been served, but their watch was far from over. There would always be more work to do, more truth to uncover, more people who needed someone to stand between them and harm. Sarah checked her mirror one last time, seeing Duke's badge and Max's reflection merge for a moment in the sunlight. The past was honored, the present was secure, and the future was full of possibilities. Time to get to work.